I know you and I, we can do the music thing all day long, but all good things must come to an end. I want to say a special good morning to our viewers, those of you that just joined us on GBN's television. That's channel 7 and channel 11, channel 20 if you're in cable. If you're following us via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd or via our Facebook page or YouTube channel, welcome to the televised edition of the Mid-Morning Buzz. I'm Joseph Cadore, you call me JC, and it's indeed a pleasure being here with you again. Continue good morning to those of you that's been following us from since 10 on the Mid-Morning Buzz. My guest this morning, representing the Royal Grenadier Police Force, is Detective Constable Farray. And this morning we'll be talking about domestic violence. And that is one of the topics that when you hear it, I see the look on your face and you say, that again, them again. Well, yes, it's JC again with the police again to tell you again, some of you guys, to keep your hands by your side. When you want to hit, go and get grass and cut. Get a chainsaw and go cut down trees or do something. Get a broom and sweep. Go cut grass, run, jog. But do not hit the people's children. I'm not sure how much simpler we can put it, but maybe you wouldn't quite understand the way I will articulate it, because I'm normally one of those who would probably advocate street justice. But of course we can't do that. That's why we have Detective Constable Farray is going to talk to us. Good morning, Detective. How are you? How have you been? How's everything?
Good morning to you, Joe. I am blessed and highly favored, and I'm great. Thank you.
And I know that that's not an expression. That is the truth.
It is the truth.
It is the truth. Wonderful. Domestic violence. It isn't a new topic. It isn't one of the sexy topics that people easily open up to, given the nature of what it involves. But if we were to define, for the purpose of today's discourse, if we were to define domestic violence, how would you define it?
Okay, so domestic violence, it's not new to us. So it's any controlling or abusive behavior that harms the health, safety, or welfare of a person or a child. And it's not limited to sexual abuse, physical, child abuse, intimidation, stalking, harassment, emotional or psychological abuse. And the list goes on.
You rattled it out, and it almost sounds like something that each and every one of us we've seen, we've heard of at some point in time in our lives. Do you get the sense that the issue of domestic violence, because of the nature of how it is ushered, that very often you get the sense that it is something that we've seen to come to openly accept as a way of life?
I believe most persons, I wouldn't say like everyone accept it. I would believe some persons accept it as a way of life because maybe they were exposed to it from tender years. All right, but today we have stakeholders who are speaking against it. So persons are aware of it now. So I wouldn't say that it's our culture to live in a domestic violent relationship. I would say that some persons accept it because they maybe don't know how to get out of the situation and they need help. So hence the reason why I'm here today.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because I made the comment on the basis that, I've heard whenever you start the conversation of domestic violence, and across different age groupings, you hear the expression, well, since a born, we've been dealing with this since time immemorial. It's nothing new. And it's from that background you sometimes get the sense, because it is something that has always been there, sometimes under the surface, not us being aware of it, but we've seen it. But because, as you said, we've been exposed to it for such a long time, now there is a conversation to eradicate the culture. Some people, they seem to have bought into the notion that it is okay. But today we want to say and continue to say that domestic violence in any form, fashion, color, or creed is wrong.
Yes, it is wrong. It is wrong. And we speak against it at the unit. So that's the reason why I'm on the media this morning educating and championing the cause whereby we speak against it. speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Be a voice for the individual who cannot speak for him or herself. So we are the advocates under the Royal Grenada Police Force umbrella. So I'm here to speak to you today that domestic violence is wrong, and we need to speak up and speak out.
Let's talk about identifying it, because persons, the victims, very often, they are not the one. Oh, let me not say that. What is the threat? How? Let's not. Let me. I don't want to speculate. How difficult is it for you to be able to deal with cases involving domestic violence as a detective?
Because I'm trained in that field, it's not difficult for me. It might be difficult for another individual who has to deal with it for the first time. But I would have gained experience because you study that. I studied it. So at least you would know the signs. They would come with, oh, well, it just started off with an insult. Oh, you're ugly. Oh, I don't love you anymore. You're fat and you're unshaped and these sort of things. So when they come forward and they make these sort of remarks, then you listen as a police officer. Someone who's not trained might see it differently and may not know what advice to give the individual. We don't come flood the department, but we listen. And if it's warranted where we transfer or we refer the individual for psychosocial intervention, then we work along closely with Ministry of Social Development. So the signs you might see, oh, they're coming forward where the guy would have threatened them or the woman would have threatened them, insults started, physical abuse started, or he punched me last night because I didn't prepare dinner, and so forth. So the cycle continues. So you see the signs when it starts as the tension building phase, where you have the insults and the threats and minor physical attacks, like you might start pulling and tugging. And then you have the explosive phase where the physical abuse really starts, where the weapons might be pulling and he might punch her or she punch him and vice versa. And then you have the honeymoon phase. That person might come to the police and make a report because they're tired of the abuse. The cycle continues over and over, and they don't know what to do anymore, so they run to the police now. After 5 years, after 10 years, because they can't take it anymore. And then he or she comes home with a nice bouquet of flowers and say, oh honey, let's make it up. I'm sorry, I was angry last night. And this is what we're speaking about, the honeymoon phase, with a nice bottle of champagne and a nice chocolate, and say, okay, let's suit it off. For 5 months or a month, going down the road, everything is nice and dandy. And then within the other month, the abuse starts again because you can't talk to Sarah down the road and you can't talk to Joe. And the insecurities and trust issues start.
What is it? Because there's a lot of dynamics in there. And you talk about that revolving door. And very often it's that revolving door because it is individuals that are in a consensual, which started off as a consensual adult relationship where there's emotions involved. Very often they add as barriers to dealing with the issues. But let's separate them, male, female. Let's start with the male. And I want us to start there because I don't want to say openly, I make no excuse for persons who classified under my gender. I make no excuse for them. I know what I'm saying them, because what drives a man? No. What drives a person that has been identified as being a male specimen? Because I think men and male is two different things. There are persons who were born, they're male because they're gender, and then there are men because we've determined consciously that that's what we're going to be. But what is it that's going to drive an individual that is prescribed as being a male to want to dominate, control? Why?
Well, not scientifically speaking, but I would say based on the reports we would have gotten, alcohol, we would say because of stability, the woman might be working for more money than that individual and pose some form of threat and jealousy. He thinks that she's more powerful than him in terms of finance. And going forward, there's so many poverty and depression. And you see, we have the COVID pandemic now, so most persons are losing their jobs, or you have pay cuts where some persons cannot provide for their families as they used to. And most oftentimes, men cannot really take on pressure or stress as women can, because women go through different phases or different cycles in their in their lifespan, and men don't know about these challenges because women go through a lot. Pregnancy, we go through menstruation, we go through what they call it menopause. Yes, and men don't know like struggles like that. They can't take pain and pressure. I would say that from my perspective, based on dealing.
You notice I'm staying rather quiet.
I'm sorry to laugh out so loud.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes, the discussion is good, but these are some of the signs: drugs, alcohol, poverty, unemployment. And those are some of the factors that we see. I cannot say scientifically, but based on the day-to-day contact with most of our victims and perpetrators, yes.
We grow in a culture, and I want us to touch on that, because the points that you made, that they've added, and I think the alcohol, men and the insecurity. Listen, boss, if you get a woman and making more money than you, or wrong with that, you get a chance to relax. Just cook the food now, do something else now. What you fussing over? Let the woman work. Let the woman work. What's your problem? But we've grown up in a culture, a detective, where we, from the time we were born, what are little boys made of? What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice. And what are little boys made of? Puppy dog tails. If a little boy falls, get up. Why are you crying? You shouldn't cry. The little girl falls, and you sponge her off, and you tell a little bit of the boys, you're not supposed to cry. Girls, you're supposed to cry. Girls, you are supposed to, when you get older, marry and get a man to take care of you. Boys, your job is to work and be in charge, because the Bible says so. And some people, they use the Bible conveniently. Those sort of teaching and cultural upbringing, how much of an impact do you think it has on what we see translating itself into homes and relationships?
Repeat that question for me, please.
So I was saying, based on what we've highlighted, those social upbringing, where you're told a man is supposed to be tough, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to show emotions. That's what you say to the males. For the women, you say to them quite the contrary, where they're supposed to be dependent on the man, you're supposed to be submissive. But you think that they're agreeing of those lines, and somehow over time we seem to be a misrepresentation of what those things really and truly should mean. When it says that a man is supposed to be the head of the home, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be loud and bully.
I believe what you say, because I don't believe, when they say the man's supposed to be in charge of the home, biblical term, yes, as you said, we use the Bible conveniently. I believe a man and a woman should work hand in hand to achieve a common goal. I believe if the woman is financially stable and the man is not financially stable, then if he has to stay home and cook, wash and clean, while wifey goes out to do her job, then I believe it could work, because it works elsewhere.
Right.
I see people overseas, and the men would take the children to the park to play while wifey's out. So I don't see the difference here, but our culture is the man should be the head, meaning that he should be the dominant one always.
Right.
But the thing is, sometimes the women are more proactive than the men. The women are the ones making the decisions for progress, for upward mobility, our growth in the family. So there are relationships, you can't have two dominants, meaning that two persons cannot be in charge. One must stoop for the other. And then the thing is that a woman is not always right, neither is a man always right. So society, we need to go back to the drawing board to see, okay, what exactly we can do to curb the issue. If I have two children, a boy and a girl, for instance, if my daughter should cry, my son should also cry. Because at the end of the day, I would explain to you, yes, you are hurting, you are having pain, you are feeling pain, you need to express yourself. That's the way for better men going forward. So if you're a parent and you're listening to me today, yes, your son should do exactly what the doctor is doing. Every child needs to know how to prepare a meal. You don't have a slave, so you're telling me you're growing up your son that he needs to be solely dependent on his wife, right? So she shouldn't get tired. When she comes from work, she's tired as well. Yes, you could rub her feet or make her feel comfortable. It's not always about the man. Yes, if you're the breadwinner and wife is home cooking and washing and whatever, it's all fair and good. But if she wants to be independent and she also wants to bring in her $2, then it makes things easier for a better flow in the family. But the thing is, if she's working and comes home, you should have a meal there at least prepared for her, because she would do the same thing for you. So I believe our society, we need to go back to the drawing board, structure our culture. Yes, one man should have a million other partners. I don't see that as necessary, because at the end of the day, it causes family problems. It causes, most people cannot take stress or this kind of jealous issue going around. So it continues with the cycle. So I encourage our society to train up our children differently in terms of educate them. If you're cooking in the kitchen, both your boy and girl should be in the kitchen, not the girl in the kitchen and the boy gone and play. You're going to tidy here and let go the car. These things need to change. Yes?
And I'm happy that we've touched that, because, I think in order for us to honestly, because very often what we fight against, detective, is the symptoms that we see when it's all said and done, this person is growing up. But the reality of it, I believe, in order to curb these issues, you have to take the victims or the prey and the predator, whichever one, because one becomes a prey, the other one is a predator. Can't as it in my songs, but very often it goes back to that which they have been inculcated from their childhood, where you hear because some women, they've grown up in a violent relationship where they see mommy hitting daddy or daddy hitting mommy, and she thinks it is okay, or he thinks that it is okay to hit, and she thinks it is okay that is an expression of love. But hitting is not an expression of love, and that should never, ever, ever. We should not teach our boy children or our girl children to accept those sort of teachings.
Sure, we shouldn't, because today you have persons telling you, oh, if he don't beat me, he don't love me. But this needs to break. The cycle of domestic violence is difficult for us to eliminate it or reduce it just like that. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of education campaigns to do, a lot of awareness and sensitization programs, because without that, we're going to lose a battle. And we need to win souls. You win souls for God, but now we're going to try to win souls, or try to break out or break this silence with regards to domestic violence. And the only how we can start doing that is educating our students in schools, educating our stakeholders, working along with other officers, teachers, you name it, so that at least at the end of the day, persons are educated. How we break down this barrier, how we break down this wall, how we going to curb it, how we going to deal with this issue, this scourge of domestic violence. We need to stop it now.
And it's an important point you make, that it is a culture. And I think that's where the conversation started. And it would require a cultural shift, a real paradigm shift to address this, where you start with a next generation, where they grow up understanding, where we teach our little boys and little girls, it is not okay to hit. Do not hit.
Because when you start hitting in a home in front of the children, they go to the school and bully other students. So domestic violence do not only affect a husband or wife or common law wife or common law husband or girlfriend, boyfriend. It doesn't only affect the children within that household. It affects the community. Yes, because persons within the community are hearing the fighting, their children are being disturbed, and then these children in your household who are affected, who didn't receive any form of counseling from no entity or agency, is now bullying their peers in school. So now the teachers have to call in the police, because that child now will cause harm. So you have offenses stemming from these reports with regards to domestic violence, assault, causing harm, dangerous harm, homicides, and so forth. And if we do not curb this issue now, then I don't know. Going forward, we have a lot of work to do.
Let me ask you, Detective, is there a spiritual component to addressing and curbing this?
Well, I would applaud, I would say we could get the pastors on board, because the pastors, if we get the spiritual leaders on board, at least they can educate their church members, right, with regards to domestic violence, because domestic violence not only happening to unsaved persons, but it's happening in the churches as well. but most persons might try to shield it or cover it and say, okay, well, don't go and make a report to the police. Don't go and make a report to the police. That's your in-house matter. And some persons stay in that toxic relationship for years. So I believe there's a spiritual component to it because it's happening within our church communities, and our church leaders need to get up and work with us because the police alone cannot do it. Not only the church leaders, but we're also working with Ministry of Social Development, Legal Aid, CPA. But we need the other stakeholders to come on board with us because the police alone cannot fight against domestic violence in Grenada. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and we need help.
One of the aspects of domestic violence that you hinted to, because very often we think just about the physical component, but more so the emotional and the psychosocial elements of it can be worse or even just as bad as the physical component. You know, we grew up in a period where we were told words are wind, but blows are unkind. But that is one of the biggest lies that we have been taught, because we grew up in a society where we think it is okay to tell people what we want, how we want, when we want, because we think it fits our own fancy. But that, I'm assuming, that sort of culture, I'm assuming you agreed, has to change.
Yes, it does. It has to change because emotional abuse, it doesn't really stem from, okay, this bad relationship, because you might end up in a toxic relationship because of what you were used to as a child, based on the culture of your upbringing at home. You say, okay, well, you gravitate to this type of men, abusive men, or men who has multiple women. Yes, so you gravitate to this type of lifestyle. Yes, you don't know how you ended up there. But the thing is, at the end of the day, we have to search ourselves. Emotional abuse, it occurs and it stays with you from inception to the end. But you have to know when you need to get help. You need to know as an individual who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, someone will tell you who you are. They will use you and they will tell you, oh, well, you're this type of person. You need to know as an individual, I am. So for instance, I am Samika Farray.
Right.
You are Joseph Cadore. And if you don't know who you are, then you'll be living a life that you don't understand. How to deal with issues, how to deal with children issues, because at the end of the day, somebody would be doing it for you and running you down at the same time. So yes, you grow up in an abusive relationship, but you don't have to stay that way. You could get out, you could get help. We are here to help you. We want to help you. We are here to educate you, because at the end of the day, going forward, we are a unit and we are willing and able to assist you and to refer you to other agencies so you can get the psychosocial intervention you're looking for. That doesn't mean because you were abused as a child, your children have to continue the cycle. So it's from one generation to the next. No, we're going to break the cycle with you. How are we going to do that? Ask for help.
Breaking the cycle, asking for help. In attempting to get help, and the truth is, half an hour. This conversation has to be an ongoing one, but we're trying our best to condense it within half an hour. In an attempt to get help, some people, they're often fearful. You know what? My business is going to get out on the street. Because we figure, well, he, she's, everybody knows. I don't want X, Y, and Z to know my business. Let's talk about that. The unit, and how is it you strive to maintain confidentiality of people's business. What happens, what gets said to the unit stays with the unit.
So the Special Victims Unit of the Grenada Police Force, we're a subunit of the CID. This unit is very confidential, meaning that you can come to us and you can make reports. We are bombarded with reports now because persons feel more comfortable coming forward. They feel safe and they feel that they can open up. So that's a plus for the RGPF. So today I can say kudos to the RGPF on a whole. I'm not going to give SVO alone all the credit. I'm going to give the entire RGPF credit for that. Because when that person comes forward, we ensure that they are safe, we ensure that we make them feel comfortable, and we inform them that whatever they say to us will remain with us. So at the end of the day, they feel comfortable and relaxed, and they flow, they speak, because their business is not all over John Public Road. No, it's with us, because we're the investigators. Yes, we would have to discuss it, because the way forward with regards to investigation at the unit, but not outside of the unit. So we try to expedite their process to make sure that they get the services that they so desire. And we refer the matters if they request it. If they request counseling or psychosocial intervention as we know it, if they request it, they have a right. If they want to be counseled and they say, officer, I need some form of intervention in that regard, then we refer it to the Ministry of Social Development, Gender-Based Violence Unit, because they have their psychosocial unit there, who would then render some form of counseling to the victim and their family members.
I'm happy where we wrap up this conversation because it's interesting. And my guest that I'll be having next is Dr. Panchoo, and we'll be talking about mental health. And very often that's one of the challenges that there is, because people, they make that decision to stay in a particular situation, not understanding mentally what it does to them, that after a while they've come to accept the pain and the suffering as being a way of life, and not understanding what is doing to them and how they treat with life. Detective Farray, we have not even touched the ice. We have not even scratched the surface yet. We've not even scratched the surface. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds on each side of the coin. We talk about men and their control. Yes, while that is important, we need control. Talk to the men that abuse and that overarching reach does not necessarily in any way takes away from your masculinity. And then speak for the next 30 to women that just giving in doesn't make you the best of a woman that there is. Sometimes you have to hold your ground.
Okay, so to the men out there who are alleged perpetrators, I wouldn't say perpetrators, I would say alleged, innocent until proven guilty. I'm gonna encourage you this morning that you don't have to be a bully or abuser to show power and control. You have to love, show affection, be there for your family, respect your wife and she will respect you. Show love to your wife and your children will look up to you. Be a role model, not only to your family, but also to the members of your community. Don't preach in the church, and then when you reach home, you're beating up on your wife, because it shows that you're a hypocrite. Be the example that you want your son or your daughter to be in the future. Be a father, be a daddy, not a father figure, a daddy. Show love. Sit down and do your children's homework with them. There's nothing too hard for you to do, because at the end of the day, an effective man should be the perfect daddy in the eyes of his children, not the worst parent at the end of the day, your children growing up to hate you. So be the daddy that everyone would want to be. Be a role model. That's my encouragement to you.
And to the ladies?
To the ladies who sit there and take the abuse, yes, I know it's difficult. And you might be saying, oh, well, what she's saying, it might be easy for she to say because she's not going through what I'm going through. I'm not going through what you're going through. But my sisters out there, be it old, young, middle age, I encourage you to stand up and speak out. I encourage you to be a voice for the daughter that you're growing up, and a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, because I know it's difficult. I know it's a hard road, but we are here to support you. So come forward and we'll try to get the help that you're looking for.
Thank you. That's the last word in. Remember, change only comes when you accept and realize that there is a need for change, and that you, the power to change, resides within you. You may have been born accepting and exposed to a particular culture, man, where you think that your masculinity is hinged on your ability to always stay in control. No, it's not about staying in control. It's about understanding and appreciating your role that you play in the family structure. It is okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hit. You may have thought it the other way. And for you women, believe me, I say to you, empower yourself, become more independent, educate yourself. And that fairy tale life where I want to grow up for a man to take care of me, I know your sister Farray is agreeing with me. No. That's a fairy tale story. You grow up understanding and accepting, building your own values, and finding a man that could build along and appreciate those values with you. My next guest is going to be psychologist, Dr. Panchoo, and we'll be talking about mental health. Again, Detective Farray, it's a pleasure being here with you. I'm hoping that we can get to do this as a series so we can, every week touch on something different. Talk to your bosses, talk to the powers that be, so that maybe we can do this for the next couple of weeks going forward. So at least we can focus in and delve in on some of the more critical areas to highlight some of the challenges and some of the success stories that the department has realized. They've realized over time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to the Royal Grenada Police Force for the opportunity. Have a great day, SVU, and everyone. Bye.
All the best. We take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'll be speaking with the man, Dr. Panchoo, who's waiting in the wings, and we're talking about mental health. Can you spend wisely and have more savings? Yes, you can. Learn more with Money Matters on GBN Television. The Money Matters series explores 12 top ways to save money. In this series, you would learn how to save by setting up your spending money right. Save on vehicle loans, home improvement projects, your credit cards, and even on prescription drugs. Tune in every Tuesday morning at 7:15 for Money Matters, a lighthearted conversation with financial planner Tali Francis. Follow the rebroadcast on Thursdays at 6:50 p.m. and on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. Money Matters is a financial literacy public awareness program sponsored by Republic Bank Grenada.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
5 things you need to know about self-isolation. Stay home. If you are told to self-isolate, it means staying at home, not going to work, school, or other public places, and you should not have any visitors. Separate yourself. If you live with others, then you need to stay in a well-ventilated bedroom with the doors shut. If you have to share a bathroom, then use it after everyone else. Don't share towels and toiletries, as this may put others at risk. Call ahead. If you develop symptoms such as a fever or cough, then seek advice first by calling the Ministry of Health's hotline at 538-4787 or 458-4787. Please do not show up at a medical center or hospital, as this may put others at risk. Take care with waste. If you test positive, your waste should be double bagged and disposed of separately. Create a buddy system. If you live on your own, you can plan with friends and family to check in with each other and run essential errands if one becomes sick. Once sick, they should leave groceries on the doorstep. Why it's important. COVID-19 causes a mild illness for 4 out of 5 persons. Self-isolating will help protect the older generation and those who may have underlying health problems from getting infected.
That's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
It has a psychosocial impact. Again, good morning and welcome back to our viewers on GBN Television, Channel 7 and Channel 11, Channel 20 if you're in cable. And those of you that's online via the World Wide Web, or you're probably chiming in on our Facebook page or YouTube channel, welcome back to the second half of the Mid-Morning Buzz. My second guest this morning is Dr. Panchoo, who is no stranger to the GBN, no stranger to the network, no stranger to Grenada. Good morning, Doc. How are you and how have you been?
Well, thank you. Good morning. Good morning to you, Joseph, and to your listeners. I have been good, keeping busy. And there is quite a lot to be done for Grenada and in Grenada. So I have been keeping myself busy. I am enjoying good health. So that's a plus. I took my 2 doses of the AstraZeneca. And so I think I am doing good.
You are doing good. Wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. At this moment, we want to be talking about mental health, Doc. And it is one, most times, it is not a topic that persons are open to quite actively. Because when we think about mental health, first thing we start thinking about, the boy loco. He's off his mind. He's lost his marbles. And there is this negative stigma that's associated with it. But you can clarify that for us. What exactly are you referring to when we refer to as mental health? And could there be good mental health, a good mental disposition, and a bad mental disposition?
Certainly there is. And there is a very close working relationship between the physical health and the mental health. A lot of times people do not understand, and they do not make the parallel they really fail to see that if we're physically unwell, then we are also mentally unwell and emotionally unwell. So when you ask the question about what is mental health is the soundness of the emotions. You are emotionally well. You're enjoying life. You are loving. You can accept love. You can make right decisions. You feel healthy. You sleep well. You're probably eating well. So it's a holistic approach to understanding total well-being, and emotional health is part of that total health package that we wish each person, each Grenadian would really enjoy. And you're right. And so let me quickly add, a lot of times people, because we do not see, and it's starting to take traction, where people are understanding the need for and the reason why they need to be emotionally well. But a lot of times people tend to see emotional health as either you are healthy or you are crazy. And mental illness is not about being crazy. There is a plethora, there is a whole range of emotional ill health outside of schizophrenia. And when people talk about crazy, they usually are talking about a mental illness called schizophrenia, where someone has lost touch with reality. Right. We call it a dissociation. When you have a dissociation, you're cut off. You are in a zone for yourself, and you hear voices, and you might be delusional. So that's schizo, and that's what people tend to think about mental illness and mental health. Whereas, just being sad, grieving, all these are a state of mental health and mental wellness. So that's what we want to talk a little about today.
And the truth is, Doc, normally when we talk about these mental challenges, we tend to focus on the adults. But the reality is that children, teenagers, with everything that they've thrown into COVID, school, everything else, mommy and daddy working, being busy, sometimes they have to fend for themselves. While each child is different, their mental health, it is reflected in different ways, their coping skills and their coping mechanism. But they all share some common telltale signs, though, that something is not quite right.
Right. Yes, and that is true. And so let's start talking. Let's start talking about what looking at adolescents, looking at children on the whole, and I think we want to capture children this morning. So when we look at children, there are some telltale signs, very common thread in behaviors and in perception that lend itself to tell us, maybe this person is struggling. One of them is isolation. If you see your child starting to isolate from regular activities. Now, if your child was always a loner, that is of course concerned but this is not a kind of different behavior. So we can address it at a different level. However, if your child is a vivacious, full of life child, and all of a sudden you see he or she starting to isolate, start telling yourself, maybe we should start looking more closely, or we should be asking some questions. Secondly, if your child is starting to get careless with his or her hygiene and personal looks, especially teenagers, they are obsessed, or they can be obsessed with how the way they are portrayed in public, their self-image, their self-worth. They think it's encapsulated in how well they look. And so if your child starts to get careless with personal hygiene, combing hair, brushing teeth, showering, clean clothes, you need to start asking yourself, well, probably you should ask a lot of questions if those happen. If you see your child starting to get involved with illegal drugs, that's a telltale sign of emotional ill health. You start asking, what is going on? Maybe now is a good time to step in. Maybe the last of the very common thread and the common behaviors that we see in children is how is the sleep pattern and the eating habits. Those are related sometimes. They could be exclusively different, but sometimes you tend to ask, how are they eating? Are they eating overeating?
Right.
Are they sleeping, or are they sleeping too much or too little? If you can see those activities and you see a drastic change in your child's sleeping or eating habits, you should start asking yourself, do I need help? What's going on? Start asking the question.
In attempting to get help, because very often it is difficult for one to realize what is affecting them. Even we as adults, we don't quite realize sometimes that we're that stressed anyway. What are some of the things, how can a teenager be able to identify within themselves and among their peers, what? Maybe you're going through a bit of anxiety, maybe you're going through a bit of depression, and at the same time, in dealing with that, what are some of the practical things that they can do and their parents or friends can do to deal with it? So twofold.
Okay, very good. So let's first of all identify some of the things that probably, if a teenager or a child, adolescent, see in himself or herself, they can start recognizing, maybe I am struggling here emotionally. Let me say this to all of our listeners, Joe, that we all, because of our humanness, we all at some point in our lives, we go through what is called the blues. You may feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a situation, it might be a friend grieving. Emotionally, you are connected and you share that connectedness. So it's okay to feel sad, to feel, challenged, to feel a little on the blue side, not feeling motivated to get up, to go to school, to study, or to go to work. Sometimes, you just want an extended period. It's okay to be like that. However, when we start experiencing, when a child starts experiencing the blues or the sadness over lengthy periods, extended periods, that teenager needs to understand that this is generally not normal. So feeling of sadness, feelings of demotiveness or unmotivated, feelings of helplessness, like you're in a position and you can't see your way out. If those are experienced by you for extended periods, then you need to start asking yourself, what is going on with me? Maybe now is a good time, Joe, to talk to your parents. Maybe now is a good time to talk to a teacher, to talk to a school counselor, and we have so many of them right now, to talk to an adult, maybe your minister, maybe just a good friend you can confide in. Because those feelings, when they are experienced over an extended period, they are reasons for concern.
Indeed, they are. They can manifest themselves in so many different ways.
Yes.
So you started realizing, okay, I don't feel the way I used to feel, or he, she, that friend of mine. Let's talk about practicalities now. What can I do to get rid of the blues, or to help that friend to get rid of the blues?
Okay, so Joe, I want to answer this question by giving it a twofold. So I'm going to address it both in terms of adults and parents, and then I'm going to come to the children. Okay? So what I want to do is to talk about what it is that parents and adults or guardians, even teachers, even mentors like yourself, Joe, what can you do to help a child or children who are experiencing ill emotional health or ill health on a whole? Okay. One, I want to encourage parents to create and remind parents, I remind parents all the time, adults, to create a very warm and cordial environment at home. Wherever children are, wherever you find yourself with children, whether it is in a church group, a community center, at the store, at home, in school, PTA, wherever you find yourself together with children, always create laughter, create joy, create an atmosphere that is filled with excitement and love and caring. Now, I believe if parents and adults and teachers were to create that atmosphere and that environment for children will be less inclined to succumb to the stresses of life. They can see burden. Now, if you create a hostile and toxic environment in the home, let's say your teenager, every time he or she comes home, the very first thing on the agenda is to find reason to find fault, or to find fault either in their grades, in the way they did their chores, maybe in the way they left their room in the morning. If every time your child comes from from school or from church, and that's what they're coming to, there is disdain and there is abhorrence and there is bitterness that they're coming into. They're not enjoying life, Joe. They're not enjoying life. So one, that's for parents, adults, mentors, priests, pastors, clergy, whomever.
Teachers as well.
Teachers. Create a learning environment, an exciting environment for your children. And then what can children do? Children are sometimes I call them the survivors. Sometimes they are the victims too, but the survivors of childhood abuse and childhood trauma, and they have to navigate those trauma, Joe, for the rest of their lives. And sometimes it's really hard. And so sometimes children, they resort to behaviors that are maybe defiant, maybe cutting on themselves, even suicide. We have had children, just young children, taking their lives because of the pressures of life and because they are not able to cope. I want to introduce one word here quickly. I know we are in for time, but we have to understand there is a word called resilience. Okay? We need to teach our children to tap into a sense of resilience. That is when life and circumstances knock you hard, that you are able to dig deep and to find coping skills.
I will survive.
That either you have learned, yes, Joe, or that coping skills that your teachers, your mentors, your parents have taught you, so that you can resort to those and you can help pull yourself up and say, you know what, when I'm sad, my mom or my mentor has taught me that I can do deep breathing, I can journal, I can go for a walk, I can
sing a song.
I can listen to some music. I can tune the world off by meditation and through meditation. So so in addition to parents and adults providing that nurturing and loving and warm environment, we can teach children to tap into self-soothing and self-healing behaviors.
We do those. We've tried all of those, and for some reason, Doc, you're still getting the sense that, you know what, I am not quite getting the response that I need to. At what point do I determine, you know what, I think I need some professional help? How do I address that one?
A very, very, very good question, Joe. Sadly, a lot of times, all of those well-intentioned help tips, they do not work. And sometimes they do not work for various reasons. It could be that the hurt, that the reason for the sadness and the depression or the anxiety has been left unchecked, and it's so ingrained that it has become part of life and it's difficult to cope. However, I want to say this. Anytime a parent or a child see unusual behaviors, unusual things are happening, and they are happening pretty regular, start thinking, let me get some help. Right. It may be nothing. It may be just a phase, because as teenagers, as adolescents and children mature physiologically and emotionally, certain hormones are being introduced in the body by the body system. And so the body has to take time to adjust to it. And sometimes in the adjusting period, they have weird thoughts and weird behaviors. And we call them weird. They aren't weird. They are more adjusting behaviors. And so they have these adjusting behaviors that are not normal behaviors. And given time and learning, they overcome them. However, there are times when those behaviors are really connected to deep emotional and psychological problems, right. And we do need help for them. So you may need to see a psychiatrist to be evaluated for possible medication, or you may need to see a therapist or a counselor to get help with navigating these difficult moments. And there are so many, strategies as therapists that we can use, and as psychologists that we use with children to help them to rethink whatever is going on, to reframe some of their life experiences, to learn to accept some, to learn to grieve. Some children have not been allowed to grieve for the trauma that they have experienced in their lives or in the lives of their parents. Right. So it is always a good thing, Joe, to be able to reach out to a professional. And I want to introduce us again to the abundance of counselors at the school levels, at the Ministry of Education, at the Ministry of Youth.
But why do you that, Dom?
Development, and also to the Ministry of Social Development.
One of the challenges, though, we have about 3 minutes or so. There is the challenge of the stigma.
Yes.
I mean, a child going and says, tell his friends, my mom took me as a psychologist. They say, what? They took it to see the shrink?
Yeah.
And we know where the conversation and the stigma, where that leads. How do you deal with that, both as the child and as the parent?
Yes, I tell you this, Joe, as a psychologist and as a practicing professional in Grenada, I come across this resistance, and it is a phobia on children who really they know something is not right and they want help. Or some parents who are just petrified to reach out to me or to others. There are lots of us. And so what do I say? I say, if you were in the United States, Joe, watch this. If we were living in the United States or Canada, our family will have an attorney for the family. We would have a therapist in addition to our pediatrician and our general practitioner. We all would have that. In Grenada, we have a pediatrician, most of our families do, and we have a doctor, and then we have a lawyer friend that we could refer to. What we don't have is someone to deal with the mental health. And through this conversation that we're having, and through GBN and all the programs that they have, and through other media outlets, we are trying to educate our Grenadian people. It's okay when you feel the blues, when you feel depressed or anxious. It's a verifiable feeling or position of emotional distress, and it's okay to share it, and it's okay to seek help, because unless you are emotionally healthy, you will not be physically healthy also.
The truth is, you are not alone.
Yes.
You're not alone. I think that's what's important, because most people, Doc, when they go through those rough patches, they tell themselves that I'm the only one that is there. Nobody else understands. This is isolated. But the truth is, there's nothing new under the sun.
There is nothing new under the sun, and we know what it is. People understand. People can feel. Watch this. Listen, we were born. Our central nervous system and our peripheral, so it's our nervous system and our whole Joe, is wired. God made our bodies wired to feel love and to be loved, to feel empathy and to empathize. That's natural things about us. It comes naturally. Our body chemicals are geared and wired for this. And so when we experience emotional distress, our entire body is crying out for help. And so sometimes we just need to reach out and be able to express it and to get sometimes just guidance. We most of the times, Joe, we do not need medication. We may just need a little change in diet, maybe a little change in health habits.
And a good laugh.
And a good laugh. Thank you for ending this way, because listen, humor is really, and it's not just the jokes, but to be able to enjoy the fresh breeze on air on the morning,
right.
To be able to look at your flower garden and just, to be able to pick a mango and just enjoy it with gusto. These are the things that make life happy and set the tone for emotional health,
Thanks a lot, Doc. I know that's a conversation that is ongoing, but I think we just need to get to ourselves a point where we feel good about ourselves and accept, Doc, that every day is not going to be like the other day. But at least get to a point in life where you are satisfied enough. You know what? Today's not that good, but I'm having a good enough life that I can look back on yesterday and I can smile. I have good memories. And we did talk about that's why it's important that as adults we create those good memories for children, so that the days when we have the blues, I can remember, you know what? Tuesday the 25th, Doc and I had this conversation, and he told me to smile. Go outside, pick a mango, let my hair down, and just have some fun in the glorious sunshine.
Thank you. And thank you. That's a really great way for us to end today, Joe. Thank you for having me. The power, I call it, let's end with the power of positive thinking positive, thinking well of yourself, thinking well of others. And Joe, every now and again, offer a prayer to a power that is bigger and greater than we are.
And we all say amen.
Yes.
Amen. Thanks a lot, Doc. It's always a refreshing experience talking to you. I know we're going to do this, maybe not tomorrow, but some way down the line, you and I, we are going to have this conversation again. Thanks a lot. All the best to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We're keeping our eyes on the clock. My final guest, Dr. Augustine Panchoo. It's always a refreshing experience talking to him. It's about 3 minutes on to the hour of 12 o'clock. Reminding you at the top of the hour, it's going to be the midday edition, a production of our news and current affairs department. It's about the time when I say so long, goodbye. Parting is such sweet sorrow, but it only sets up the anticipation that you and I are going to meet again tomorrow for another spellbound occasion just to interact really with each other. Until that day, continue to live life, love life, treat each day stay as though your last day on planet Earth, and be good to yourself and find a way to find the next best version of yourself. JC loves you. Peace and love. I am out of here. The new team, they're making their way in. She's in with a bouncing smile on her face. She's doing a bouncing smile on her face. They're getting ready for the mid edition. JC loves you. I am out of here, Grenada.